Life Audio.
Welcome to But Jesus Drank Wine.
And other stories that kept us stuck. I'm Mead.
And I'm Christy.
In this podcast, we'll explore the stories that kept us, stuck, wanting to drink and not wanting to drink, all at the same time.
Join us as we show you that freedom from alcohol does not have to mean a life sentence of misery and missing out,
but actually means living an authentic life full of peace, joy, and purpose.
Welcome to our podcast. Welcome to the But Jesus Drink Wine podcast. We're so happy you're here.
Wow. It feels very ominous.
Ominous? Why does it feel ominous? Why does it feel ominous?
Welcome to the Jesus Drink Wine podcast. No.
You know what? There's so many
baritone voice.
There's so many voices and things being done with the AI now that you can literally just plug. We could literally plug just a script into a robot and have it pretend to talk like us. And I bet you that's already happening in the podcast world, to be honest. Just so you all know, we are really here. We are not robots.
I think it's very obvious purposely here. I think it's very obvious that we are live. Unscripted.
We are live. We are live. We are. Why was I going to say in charge? That's wrong.
I'm not in charge.
I don't want to. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're having a
conversation.
We're having a heat wave in the UK. There is some sort of construction outside. Carter took my fan. All right, so I'm already sweating. So let's do this. We're talking about Mead. What are we talking about today? What are we talking about?
We are talking about why rock bottoms are not required to starting that shift to freedom from alcohol, to starting the journey to freedom from alcohol. Something that when I was stuck in that
was that a story that kept you stuck?
How did you know that's what I was going to say? Gosh, we do this all the time. One of my biggest stories when I was in the most, I would say, most aware pain point of my journey when I was stuck. Okay, alcohol is taking up too much space in my life. I don't want to be doing this. And I simultaneously cannot imagine life without this. I'm just stuck. One of the stories I told myself, because I thought, based on my experience with people who quit drinking or in that traditional recovery sense, air quotes there, I thought you had to have a rock bottom in order to do something about your relationship to alcohol, in order to be forced to quit drinking and then every single day for the rest of your life, try not to drink. And because my life did not have any outward detrimental effects from my drinking, now I can look back and be like, not any obvious effects, right? But I mean, for sure, there were things I can reflect on and be, okay, that's not exactly how I wanted to be showing up in that place. That wasn't my best as a mom, whatever, all of those things. But when you think of what it takes to quit drinking, to be sober, air quotes again for me, I just had this idea that the reason why I wasn't moving forward in this journey of resolving this conflict was because I hadn't had a rock bottom. It wasn't bad enough yet. I was still fully functioning. My life looked great, and it was great on the outside. But do we have to wait for that rock bottom for it to get better? And that was one of the biggest stories that kept me stuck in it longer than I probably had to be. So that's what we're talking about. You could have said that in 5 words and
No, but I think when we're talking about rock bottom too, I think you hit the nail on the head, because I don't think I was thinking in terms of rock bottom. If I actually think back to the Christy that was stuck 2018, 2019, that Christy, she wasn't thinking necessarily about rock bottom, but the words that would have been circulating in my head was definitely that it wasn't bad enough.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad enough yet. And so I think today we want to talk to that woman who's thinking that maybe that story that you're telling yourself of your drinking isn't bad enough, is that giving yourself permission to stay stuck in a cycle that is no longer serving you, or is that thought that it's not bad enough keeping you stuck in a place where you're not able to test out and try for yourself to see if there's a better way, if it's possible for you to feel better without it. And so it's just, again, you gals have heard us say this so many times about getting curious about this story that may or may not be keeping you stuck. And I think also, even if we just look at what a rock bottom is, that is going to mean so many different things
Mhm.
for so many different women. And I'll never forget when I went on Corey Lee's podcast. She is another Christian sobriety podcaster. She's been on with us. I went on with her to talk about the book. And she was like, no, Christy, your rock bottom is just when you stop digging. So when was that? And I was like, okay, well,
Mm.
if you're going to frame it that way, then
Mhm.
my rock bottom was March 9th, 2020, when I woke up and I looked in the mirror and I was just hungover. It was even a that much worse of a hangover situation. It was just like I
Yeah.
had had enough and I knew I wanted something different, right? And so it
Yeah.
doesn't it doesn't matter what that looks like for you. The moment that you stop digging, the moment that you start questioning, the moment that you give this a real the good old college try, as my mom used to say, and try life without alcohol, that's whatever you're if you need to have a bottom, your bottom can be today. That's what I'm trying to say.
Your bottom can be today,
Your bottom
friends.
can be right now.
There you have it. Well, you said so many things there that are so good. Number one, what was also true for me when I really thought about it was that my as long as I was telling myself, I genuinely thought, okay, two things. I genuinely thought I needed a rock bottom in order to change my relationship to alcohol because I only knew two paths based on the traditional recovery kind of method of finding freedom from alcohol. And I think that's something worth noting because back in 2018, I didn't know that there was any other way to I didn't know that there was any other way to change your relationship to alcohol. I thought it had to get worse, then you'd be forced to quit, and then you would have to miserably try every single day for the rest of my life not to drink again. And then I was, okay, if that's option A, and then option B is staying miserably stuck every day for the rest of my life, miserable and miserable. So it must have to get so I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing because maybe it's not bad enough, and that rock bottom is the thing that forces you to quit. I didn't know that you could
Yeah.
choose
Yeah.
to change your relationship to alcohol by first changing your thinking to change your drinking. I thought it was all about behavior change. I thought it was all about air quotes alcoholism and getting to that and addiction and getting to that place, but really and I thought that so much that I one night, I mean, I prayed. I prayed for a rock bottom. I was, "Okay, God,
Mhm.
I am so stuck right now. I don't know what to do. All of my attempts are not working. I think the thing I'm missing is I don't have a rock bottom."
Yeah.
Sure, I've had these moments where I've paid attention. One of my that bottom that you're speaking of, that moment where you stop digging, like, that came to me when my youngest at the time, who was 4, one night when I was putting her to bed, she's like, "Ooh, no kisses tonight. Your breath stinks like wine." And that was a moment that I would say if I had to, like, to use Corey Lee's, if I had to pinpoint, that's when it kind of shifted for me. That's what got my attention. So, would you say that was my rock bottom? Sure, probably, if we're talking from a traditional sense. That doesn't look like what I thought a rock bottom needed to be.
Yeah.
And to your point, as long as I was saying that it's not that bad yet and it needs to get worse before it can change, it was giving me permission to keep doing
Mhm.
the thing, to not pay attention. It was giving me permission to just keep doing what I was doing, which was I mean, I started as someone who didn't drink during the week, and it was only for, social events and here on the weekend, and then eventually, that is gonna catch up with you because you're gonna drink more of it over time, not less if you're not paying attention to it. I love what you said about how it can keep us stuck as long as we think we have to have a rock bottom. And that's why this conversation is so important, right? And then also for the
Mhm.
gals who are new to this way of finding freedom from alcohol or, quote unquote, becoming sober. We always say here, it's not about behavior change. It is about
Mhm.
renewing your mind so that you can then change because everything we think, everything we believe affects what we do or don't do. And so starting from that place and really noting what am I coming as I'm listening for the listener out there, like as I'm listening to this episode, what is my story that I'm telling myself about where I am in my stuckness with alcohol or my journey to freedom from alcohol? Like what am I telling myself about this? Am I telling myself a story that says I have to wait till it gets worse before I do anything about it? It's not that bad. And how is that robbing you of what could be better? Because that's the thing that I did not realize, that it wasn't just this life sentence of misery and trying not to do this thing every day for the rest of my life. Everything it's 10x on this side. I had no idea.
I think that when you're stuck waiting for that to get worse narrative to potentially play out in your life, it's also because you don't have any sort of data to support the fact that like
Yes.
life could be better without
Mhm.
it. And when you don't know that, when you don't have any experience of life as a non-drinker and any experience of things potentially being better without it, it's that story, of course, is going to be really, really loud. It has to get so incredibly bad. My drinking has to get so incredibly bad that the only way that not drinking could be better is
Yes.
because it's a step up from this awful, 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 awful low. And we are here to tell you that, again, just get curious about that. That might be another story that is keeping you stuck in a pattern that is no longer serving you, because that's not true. Because even
Yeah.
we have had the privilege and honor and blessing to coach women that are not actually drinking, quote unquote, that much a couple times a week, and just still know that it is not serving them. And so I love this Hebrews 12:1 verse. Was this in your notes, by the way?
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. Do you mind
Yeah.
if I read it? Or do
No,
you
go
want?
for it.
Okay.
No,
Um,
please. Yeah.
so I love this Hebrews 12:1 that you flagged. Let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially that the sin that so easily trips us up, and let us run with endurance the race. You gals, if you have spent any time in church or the Bible, may have remembered that it's the run the race, one of the run the race verses, right? Run the race with endurance that God has set before us. And even if you don't want to get to the point yet of thinking that this could potentially be a sin for you, or this could be a situation of disobedience for you, then is it weighing you down and keeping you further from God, right? We just did that great episode. If this is sparking your curiosity of, oh wait, maybe I don't need to wait, I would go honestly back and listen to that idol episode that we just did, because
Yeah.
that has such a great framework of, this is what you the questions that you can use to begin to ask yourself if this is something that you need to be curious about. But one of the stories that I do not think serves us is that it needs to get to this place of total and complete disaster zone.
Well, yeah, because think about how much further than you have to better is all relative. So yes, if you're at the very bottom, desperate very bottom, then anything is better than that very
Yeah.
bottom. But what we're saying is that you can just be at not best and
Yeah.
start from, things aren't terrible, but I'm paying attention to this little nudging that I'm getting that says that this is taking up more space than it's supposed to. This is maybe stealing my presence, stealing my clarity, my joy, my communion with God. Maybe this is getting in the way of all the things that I think that are good for me, God's best for me.
Mhm.
And it's just a matter of paying attention to that and then being willing, being courageous enough to do something about it. And I think that's what's so hard, because it's for me, I got to that place of fear around how do I do this otherwise? I don't know. I could not wrap my head around how that would even be possible, because I had tried it. So air quotes, I had tried it my way, trying
Yeah.
to find peace with my relationship with alcohol for so long, doing the breaks and the fasts and the all the kind of all those kinds of things. And I hadn't found peace and freedom yet. And
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I was
Mhm.
actually reading this. One of the things that spurred us on wanting to have this conversation, because I got really excited. I was reading in this book, and by the way, we have in our community a special space for book clubs, and we have a couple leadership team gals that are going through this amazing book by Priscilla Schreier. I'll hold it up for the people that are on the YouTube. It's I Surrender All. Do. And I will also link it in the show notes. And so, but she is writing in this chapter about suffering. And I'm just going to read these couple sentences really quick because when I read this, I was, oh my gosh, what a beautiful way to actually let's take back. You and I were doing it right here live on air. We are going to take back rock bottom and we are going to make it mean something else. Okay. So I'm going to read this.
Yes,
Um,
go. Love it.
okay. So this is not me. This is Priscilla Schreier. I Surrender All, page 171. Our heart wasn't here until we touched rock bottom. She's talking about suffering and she's talking about reaching out and meeting Jesus in your suffering. Our heart wasn't here until we touched rock bottom. But in sensing ourselves sinking into situations that were so far over our heads, we finally grip a truth in our heart that we once only theorized in our heads. He is the rock at the bottom. He's been here all along, here, there, everywhere in between. We no longer merely believe it by faith, we know it by experience, so we surrender all to him, even this, even now. We are finally coming to know him. And I love that picture so much of instead of rock bottom being this horrible disaster that you're waiting for,
Mm.
what if it's just the minute that you realize that God is there for you, that he is the rock at your quote unquote bottom, and that you're no longer alone and that you get to surrender this to him and you do not have to do it by yourself anymore. Isn't that amazing?
Oh, I love it so much because when you realize that he is that rock that we can put our feet on, we have that firm place to stand. I love Psalm 40 that says that. And when we realize that that's what we have, that's what gives us that that courage to take a step forward in doing the next little tiny thing towards changing a relationship to alcohol. Otherwise, we're just in that place of I'm alone with this. I'm so miserable. I'm stuck. I don't know what to do about this. It's not that bad, but could it be better? Maybe it could be better. But oh my gosh, maybe I need that rock bottom, but maybe that's helping me, giving me permission to stay stuck and allowing me all the things. There's so much noise. But when this is true of anything, when we can take the focus off of ourselves and where we are and put the focus back on God, who he is, who he says we are in him, then it is empowering. It is that firm place to stay. He is that rock, that firm place to stand that gives us that ability to then say, okay, what do I need to do from here? And I mean, neurophysiologically, if we're in that place of stuck, we're in that lower brained
Mhm.
emotional state where we're not thinking clearly. Our prefrontal cortex, part of our brain that makes the rational, clear decisions, it's not online. It's not able to think of what do I do from here? And so, yeah, what if we remind ourselves that he is that rock at the bottom and he's where the focus should be. And with that firm place that I have in him to stand on, I can now go, I can breathe and say, am I standing on that rock? And what do you want me to do, God? Like what do we do next? Help me, God. You show me that next little thing that I can do. And
Yeah.
then go from there. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that so much. I wrote down maybe the pit wasn't the point. The point is who
Yes.
pulls you out. Yeah.
Yes.
The point is not the
That's
pit. The point is who pulls you out of the pit.
so good. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I also love this quote. It's also about suffering, but I love this quote so much it's attributed to Charles Spurgeon, so we're going to say it's him. I have learned to kiss the wave that throws me against the rock of
Mm.
ages. And as we're
Ooh.
just talking about the rock, it's just I have come to be so incredibly grateful for my alcohol journey, even the icky parts, even the parts that I don't talk about on the podcast, even the parts that are not in the book, because of the fact that they drew me so much closer to him. And but that was not like that forever, right? I had a lot of shame stories for a very, very long time. But when you can get to a point where you're like, okay, God, I see you were there. And I see how you're somehow working this all together for good. You and I never in a million years could have imagined sitting here, episode 130, whatever we are, 140, whatever we are, getting to have these conversations, right? It's incredible to me.
Yeah, I love that. I say this a lot too, but I just I hope I never forget this too. When I started that my freedom from alcohol journey, I really did think that it was about changing this behavior and
Mhm.
finding a way to live somewhat effortlessly without it. I didn't think it was truly possible to be in a place of like no temptation, totally effortless to not drink alcohol. I just did not think that was possible. So if I could have even just had a sliver of that, I would have been happy. And what I didn't know is that the freedom from alcohol journey and then getting to a place where then yeah, temptation is I've not had a single temptation in almost 6 years since I found freedom from alcohol. I'm
Mhm.
around it all the time. It's insane. And that allows me to remember not only that this is him, like he did this. He guided me through this. He brought me through this. This is all in his power, all in his all of it. All glory to him. And also it was just the dress rehearsal, I feel like, for all the things that were coming next. I remember writing in my journal back in December of 2019 when I first found freedom from alcohol. I don't know, but I feel like, or maybe it was the beginning of 2020, whatever, January or December. And I'm like, I don't know what's coming, but I feel like this has all just been a warm up or a dress rehearsal. And
Mhm.
it's exactly at the right time. And then COVID started. And then, I mean, and then all of the stuff with the health stuff with my youngest child and all of these things and now I can truly say from freedom from alcohol and all of the things on the other side of that, I have learned to kiss the waves, just like that the quote that you read. I have
Mhm.
learned that because it brings me closer to him. It reminds me of I don't have to do all of this by myself and that he's got this. And if it doesn't, if my relationship to him doesn't come first, then nothing else
Yeah.
is going to thrive. Nothing else is going to be good or bear fruit. It has to start with my relationship with him. So start with my relationship with God, and then I can change my relationship with alcohol, and then I can my relation who knew all my relationships to actual people would get better
Yeah.
too. All of that fruit that came, I just didn't know that that's what we were getting ready to do, and I'm so, so grateful, he said, to that this was the thing, not just for what we get to do every day, like for work, like our calling, our purpose here, but there's not a single aspect of my life where it has not reordering my relationship with God and putting him first not after I had everything all tidy and fixed and whatever, but as a partner for the journey of reordering the rest of my life that wasn't that bad. My life that wasn't that bad. Yeah, I just had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. 100%. I love that so much. I wrote down you can respond to conviction without waiting for a crisis. Um,
That's good.
and I think as we're talking, I just want to speak to the gal who has been constantly comparing her alcohol-free journey with other people
Yeah.
because I think that has a lot to play a big piece to play here, right? Is maybe you're waiting because you feel like it has to get worse because the person that you know that's in your life, their relationship got really worse. And so there's that comparison thing. And then I've also heard, I think I'm pretty sure we've heard on this podcast from guests before of Christian gals who feel they need this rock star testimony. And
Yes.
and in order to have this big, flashy, amazing testimony story, they need this dramatic rock bottom. And I actually remember thinking that in the very, very
Yeah.
beginning. Oh no, like my story isn't would never be able to be a book because it's not dramatic enough, right? And
Same.
or there's pieces of the story which are not in the book, which I would have to put in the book to make it a bestseller, right? And so if that's you today, and also if you're comparing your sobriety story, your alcohol-free story, whatever you wanna call it, to either one of us, we wanna be open and vulnerable and share with you and tell you what we've learned. Obviously, that's what we're doing here along this walk, but that doesn't necessarily mean it has to look the same for you. And one of the things that I shared in our community recently, which is a Beth Moorism in one of her studies that we're gonna do in the community is God in these breaking of these strongholds that have a
Mhm.
hold on us, God can show his power and might and glory by snapping his fingers and taking alcohol away from you forever and ever. Amen. And he has done that for various people in our community. And
Mm.
and and even though we have done a ton of work on our mindset and we have really, really gotten deep on all of that, God has, I believe, taken that from us too, right? We have rewired
Yeah.
our brains. We've taken our
Yes.
thoughts captive. We've done what he says in the word to hold that up to the truth. But there, of course, is a huge piece that he has played in taking this desire away from us. And just to speak to the woman right now who's thinking, well, he hasn't done that for me, so therefore he's not with
Yes.
me. That is not true. That's from the devil. And God is going to teach you something that is unique to you that you need to learn in
Mm.
this story, and it's gonna take what it takes. F
Mhm.
and so if you've been praying that prayer, and I have a couple gals in the community, your faces are in my mind right now. If you've been praying that prayer, and you've been praying that prayer, then maybe what he is trying to teach you is that he is sustainable and that he is the thing that you need instead of wine, right? We've talked a million times on here of all the reasons that we think that we like to drink, comfort, rest, all the things, joy, peace, all the things that we actually can be found in Jesus that we are looking for in the counterfeit of alcohol. And so maybe he is trying to teach you that he is what will sustain you, not alcohol. And so don't compare your journey. You don't need this massive crisis moment DUI. You don't need to be thrown in jail to look at this. And don't compare it to the other side either, right? Don't compare it to who are these girls to have a podcast? They weren't drinking enough, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Hey, look at it. They weren't drinking enough. That's so funny. Because I assure you, I was drinking plenty, $800 worth, right? Every month.
Well, hello. I think we said mine was 1,200 pounds. So that I see you're
Wow.
at $800
Yeah.
and I raise you 1,200 Great British pounds.
Which is what, I don't know, $2,000?
It's $1,600. It depends
Oh,
on the day. It depends on the day. The exchange rate's
wow.
bananas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, to your point though, the comparison thing is just it's another way of another story that we can use to keep ourselves stuck and without that ability to turn our prefrontal cortex back on and get that clear rational choice actionable step to move forward. And I think that's such I think that's one of the things that we see and we hear a lot working with all the women that we do is and wouldn't the enemy I just think too, wouldn't the enemy love for us to believe that it
Mhm.
has to get worse before it gets better?
Yeah.
Because guess what,
Yeah.
you guys? If we believe it has to get worse before it gets better, then
Yeah.
we're more vulnerable. We are more his, the evil one, than we are God's, right?
Mhm.
His job is to steal, kill, destroy. Make no mistake, that is the goal. And so he doesn't want us listening to God. He doesn't want us um, feeling like we can take steps forward. He doesn't want us to do anything about this thing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I wrote down, just to your point right there, I wrote down Satan doesn't need you passed out. He just wants you disconnected. And
yeah,
so I
oh,
think to your
yes,
point is that this Satan can use alcohol in such a evil, insidious way that doesn't look evil and insidious, and it's just by
uh-huh.
keeping you a little bit numb. It's
Yep,
just keeping you a little bit disconnected. It's keeping you a little bit hungover, so you're just a little bit less likely to say that bedtime prayer with your children or
mhm,
whatever it is, or just a little bit too hungover to go to church. That was me every single Sunday, just a little bit too hungover to go to church. And it again, that doesn't have to look like a quote unquote typical rock bottom drinker. That can mean, splitting a bottle of wine on an empty stomach, you know?
yeah, yeah. It may not, yeah, wine might not be destroying where I was 6 years ago. It might not have been destroying my life, but it was dulling my life and my connection
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
God and everybody around me. And it wasn't until later that I realized that, like, numb instead of being fully alive is and it didn't look numb. Nobody in my circle would have looked at me as someone who's, like, drinking to numb. or
Yeah.
drinking to escape. I just wasn't fully alive. It reminds me of when we were moving, one of our moves over the years. We were closer into the city, and my husband, he's a country boy at heart, grew up in the country, always wanted to be out in the country. It's taken some time to get me on board with that, but he, has the idea of he wants to have land and the quiet life or whatever, the simple life.
Wildflowers, wildflowers. He
The what
wants the
my I kn
wildflowers.
he's given me the wildflowers to make me happy out here. But no, I do love it. But when we were considering moving, it was really hard to say, "Yes, let's do it," because things weren't bad where we were. Things were actually they were great, but
Yeah.
there was this sense that there was something better for the
Yeah.
particular season we were in and the
Yeah.
particular all the things. There was a sense that there was something better for
Yeah.
us if we made this move. But it was so hard because but it's good. It's fun. Where we
Yeah.
lived was delightful. We have the best memories from that time. A little bit different than
Yeah.
maybe the drinking story, but the point being, it wasn't until we got out here and got that experiential knowledge about
Yeah.
living further out and following what I do believe was God nudging us to make a move. It wasn't until we did that and experienced it that then I was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize the impact that living there. I didn't even realize how it was affecting so many things and not maybe the best way or in a negative sense."
Yeah. Yeah.
Until I was here. And that's not a knock on where I was. Like, it was good for
Right.
that season, but paying attention to what God has for us is better, and can I take that step without having to say, "Well, yes, I'm moving because it's just." Of course you're gonna move when you're desperate, but why do you have to wait for desperate? That's
Yeah.
that's, I think, the same for the freedom from alcohol journey. You don't have to wait for desperate to step into freedom.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good, babe. Imagine stepping into a vibrant, welcoming community where faith, friendship, and freedom from alcohol come together. That's exactly what you'll find inside the But Jesus Drank Wine community.
Each week, our members gather for connection calls, a time to share honestly, grow spiritually, and support one another in a warm, grace-filled space.
And for women who are already free from alcohol, we offer a monthly connection call just for you, a space to stay grounded in your faith, share your victories, and continue growing in freedom.
With a loving leadership team, a dedicated prayer request board, and connection opportunities across every time zone, you never have to walk this journey alone.
We also offer masterclasses with expert guests, optional book and Bible studies, and so much more to help you grow in your faith and strengthen your sobriety.
For those ready to go even deeper, our small group coaching space, The Missing Piece, offers weekly recorded coaching calls and personalized support for women committed to breaking free from alcohol.
Whether you're sober curious or years alcohol free, if you love Jesus or want to fall in love with him again, you'll feel seen, supported, and strengthened here.
Ready to join the sisterhood? Head over to butjesusdrankwine.com/community or click the link in the show notes to learn more. We can't wait to meet you.
It just also makes me think about this is a very, I think, upside down kingdom thing that I'm learning is that we're
Mm.
actually not meant to be comfortable.
Yes. Uh-huh.
We're actually
Yep.
not. We are so in Western society, we believe that we deserve to have certain things, a certain amount of money in our bank account, a certain style of house, a certain whatever. And when God chooses to teach us a lesson by messing with our creature comforts, it's so hard for us. It's so hard for us to be like, "Oh, I'm going to loosen my grip on whatever the thing is, alcohol, whatever the thing is." We like that stuff that's like making us comfortable, right? When you're talking about like being
Mhm.
fine in the one house, like, everything was fine, everything was comfortable. And I was talking at a school event recently with the head of our school, I guess the equivalent of the principal for the American. And we're kind of like relatively new to the school. We've only been there a year, and I only have since learned that this man is a true Christian. And so I went up to him and I'm so sad he's decided to take another post and he's moving countries. And I'm so sad I didn't ever get to know you, and you're leaving. And he said to me, "I thought I was going to be at this school for the rest of my life. I have always said that this is the plan. I have no idea why God is moving us, but I
Mm.
know that this is all him. If it's up to me, I wouldn't go. And I was just, oh
Uh,
my gosh, what a man of faith to just be, I'm going because God is calling me. And so it goes back to the stuff in the idol episode again. But if God is tapping you on your shoulders, if the Holy
mhm,
Spirit has you by by either side of your shoulder and is shaking you and saying, my sweet daughter, I have more for you. If you just put this thing down, if you just
mm.
trust me and put this thing down, even for an amount of time so I can show you. Yeah.
But that's what we're so passionate about because that's what we've experienced.
I
It's
get
like,
so passionate that I forget what I'm saying.
I hello, how long have we been doing this together? I feel like
I
that's
don't
always me.
know.
That's
I
not
don't
you.
know.
Oh
I don't
gosh.
know. By the way, I would just say a little hallelujah, thank you, Jesus, and just celebratory moment. I read the other day that only 5% of people get past 100 episodes. So we are in the 5%, babe.
Oh, hey, look at us.
I know we're
Oh,
so special.
that's exciting. That's so cool. Thanks for
Sorry, what
sharing
were you
that.
going to
That's
say?
certainly not gonna help get us back on track when we're both, "Wait, what? Where were we?" But it's a
What were
great
you going to say?
a great sidebar. I love it. I think we have to underscore this. I always come back to this too because I had so many stories about how God viewed me, how other people viewed me, about just how awful I was. Self-condemnation was
Yeah, yeah.
my thing. I didn't know it though. I didn't have awareness for that. That
Mm.
one of the greatest, I think, gifts of freedom from alcohol is that starting that journey and bringing my attention to what are the thoughts that I'm thinking and how are they influencing everything that I say, do, whatever. That's been one of the greatest gifts because it exposed to me how I had a running, just real, constantly condemning myself for all the things that I wasn't doing right, or I wasn't enough, or I wasn't all these things. And when we talk about this, when we're in this place of daring to look at our relationship to alcohol and daring to consider that life could be better without it, and and we're daring to do something about it. It's so important to remember that this is all about grace. This is not guilt.
Mhm,
This is not condemnation. There is no condemnation, therefore, for those who are in Christ Jesus in Romans.
mhm.
That is so important to underscore and remember and renew our minds on because condemnation is going to feed the story that it has to get worse before it gets better. It's gonna feed all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I think too, it's important to, and I know that we've said this before, but I think it's had a really big impact too on some of the gals that we've talked to about it in the community is that reframing this as a get to, not a have to.
Oh,
You
yes.
just
Mm.
just because you haven't quote unquote had to quit doesn't mean you can't choose to quit
Yep.
or to take a break or do a 40-day fast or whatever you want to do. And that little that not little, it's huge. That
Mhm.
reframe right there of this is an invitation, this is a get to, you're invited, you're not required. It's so, so helpful because waiting for a rock bottom moment or a catastrophe,
Yep.
it's almost making it so you're forcing yourself that this is have to, so you're taking it off the table. Can I just tell you right now, you can take it off the table without one more thing, without having one more drink. You can take it off the table without anything bad having to happen to you, right?
Yes. Yep.
You do not have to wait for a have to. It can be a get to. It can be a get to. That is also a beautiful reframe, by the way, moms out there listening, that you get to use with not obviously not just drinking, but everything with your kids, right? Everything
Yep.
is an opportunity and an invitation. The second you hear have to or should,
Yep.
like pause for a reframe, take that thought captive. Figure
Mhm.
out that is true and what is a better thought, a better story that you can write with Jesus to serve you better.
Yeah, we in our house, we are the should police and the have to police, and we police each other, sometimes obnoxiously. But because that was something that early in my journey, I really thought I didn't have a choice. I thought that this was all happening to me, and I didn't have any way. I it you if there's anyone out there who doesn't drink, it's not because they chose that. You can't just
Yeah.
choose that. Who would choose that? Who would choose that? That was my thinking, who would even choose
Yeah,
that?
me too. Me too.
Have to
Yeah.
be you have to be forced, and that's what kept me
Literally, I
stuck.
thought it was a curse worse than death, literally at one point,
Yes.
to
Yeah.
not be able to drink. 100%. Yeah.
Yes, which kept me stuck for so long because I had that tension. I almost feel it was just this fight for my soul in a sense in that way.
Well, it kinda was.
It kinda was, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's be honest. It was yeah, I was at the Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz. You can go this way, you can go that way, and really it was the enemy over here and God over here, and thankfully, I chose to turn towards God and his way.
You can do it anytime, by the
You can
way.
you can
Yeah, sorry.
do at any yes, you can do it anytime because you have choice. You have that ability.
Mhm.
This isn't all happening to you. You have
Mhm.
choice. I know it feels like that, but, um, paying
Mhm.
attention to those words that we use when we're talking to ourselves, so important. The shoulds, the have tos. What does that feel like when you tell yourself you should do this, but you're not doing that thing? You just feel
Mhm.
awful. I mean, there's some things that honestly we should do. There's some times where should is the appropriate word, I just have to say. But there are also the majority of the times for me, as long as I was shoulding, as long as I was have to, need to, until I found freedom from alcohol and I started getting curious about all of the stories, all of the words, all of the things, I didn't realize I could be like, "Oh, do I actually need to do that right now? Or do I really actually should I do that?" Yeah. It's that turn to curiosity that helps us get back from our lower little toddler brain back
Mhm.
up to your smart lady brain that gives you that ability to say, I have a choice here. I can do something here." And that's the place that we would love for listeners to be so that they can't it's that turn to curiosity. It's that way to take a step forward, take your tiny new action. You do have choice. You don't have to wait. You get to, and maybe get to, I will caveat too that get to might be too strong of a jump from maybe you're at should or maybe you're at have to. Get to might not feel really true yet. You can either
Mhm.
A, start declaring it because it is something you get to do. You can start declaring it as true. I get to do this. How does that change how you approach this when you're coming from a place of like, I do get to do this, even if you don't believe it. God help me in my unbelief, right?
Unbelief. Yeah.
Or you could even just start with an in between spot of instead of I have to do this, I'm open to seeing if this
Mhm.
is what this could be better for me. I'm open to seeing that. I think that's a nice little like kind of midway point if you can't quite get to that get to. But how
Yeah.
does that change things? Start practicing with everything that you do. But yeah, my family we're pretty obnoxious about it around here. This the minute someone's I'm like, "Hey, you should go get whatever, go do the dishes." And the kids are like, "Should I?" I'm like, "Yes, you actually should, okay? Or there will be consequences." But it's so important. If that stuff is just happening and you're not paying attention to it, that is directing your life. It's driving the car of your life and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
Big, big
Yeah,
learning
that's
for
so
me.
good. So, so good. So I wrote down a few questions and we can use these as kind of a tiny Tina to
Mhm.
piggyback on what you just said. And then we have to land this plane because I have to go. I get to, oh my gosh, look at me.
Uh-huh.
I get to go host our beautiful gals in a connection call. So instead of waiting for a rock bottom, why not try these questions? Is alcohol still serving me? Is alcohol
Mm.
helping me get closer to the woman God is calling me to be? Is this choice leading me toward peace or away from peace? And am I waiting for things to get worse before I believe I'm allowed to want more? And
Yeah.
so we're just going to leave you with these questions. Our tiny Tina today is just think about those. Level up and open up your journal. We'll put these questions in the show notes. Level up and get this out on paper, gals. It
Yep.
will serve you in so many incredible ways. The women that we see just be able to take their thought captive, unwind all these past stories are ones that are journaling. So if you're not
Yep.
already, try it. Be open. We will see you next Monday. Our 40-day coached fast is kicking off September 8th. We are already taking signups and we are already prepping for you gals. And if you want to do a coach 40-day fast going through the Love Life Sober 40-day alcohol fast book, we will also put the link in the show notes to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, my friend. Thank
We'll
you for
see you
listening.
next week.
See you next Monday. Bye.
Bye.
Before we go, if you're craving real connection and want to talk more about what we've shared today, come join us in the BJDW community. It's where these conversations continue, and we'd love to welcome you in.
You can find all of our podcast episodes at butjesusdrankwine.com. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at butjesusdrankwine.
Take a screenshot of this episode and share it with a friend or two.
Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you love what we're doing, we'd be so grateful if you left a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Your reviews help more women who feel stuck and alone in the overdrinking cycle find the hope and encouragement they've been praying for.
Finally, we'd love to shout out the incredible team at Life Audio for their partnership with us at the But Jesus Drank Wine podcast. We invite you, dear listener, to visit lifeaudio.com, where you will find dozens of other faith-centered podcasts in the Life Audio network. Shows about prayer, Bible study, Christian parenting, and more.
Thanks, friend. We appreciate you so much, and we'll see you next week.